Hey, so welcome back. In this video we're going to be doing something a bit different. We are going to be making a dress. So we've got a wedding coming up and I thought I'd just share with you how to use a dress pattern and yeah, how to make a dress. This is the dress pattern that I'm using. It's from a company called So Different and it's called the Darjeeling Fop. I'm guessing that's how you say it. Yeah, so that's the pattern we're using. This is the lovely fabric that I've got. So it's like a nice viscose fabric, so it's quite drapey. So first thing I'm going to do is take my measurements and then we're going to get the pattern cut out in my measurements, and then I think I'm possibly going to do a toile first, which is basically a test run of the pattern to make sure it fits okay. I probably will make it as a wearable toile. Traditionally toiles are normally made from like a canvas type fabric, not something that you would normally wear out, but I'll be doing a wearable toile, which means that I'll be making it in a fabric that I can wear out of the house. Let's take some measurements first, decide on what size we're going for, and then yeah, go from there. Normally with sewing patterns there's three sort of standard measurements that you normally take, so it's your bust, waist and hips. Okay, so I've jotted down my bust, waist and hip measurement. Now we've done that, we can start tracing out the pattern for the actual dress. Because I am between two sizes on the waist, I am definitely going to do a wearable toile just to check the fit of it before I actually cut into the fabric for the actual dress. The fabric for the actual dress was quite expensive. It was £15 a metre and I've got 5 metres, so I don't want to cut into it and then it'd be too small and then I've got nothing to let out on. Let's get this pattern traced out. So with any sewing pattern you'll find that they're normally on very large sheets of either paper or tissue paper. I am a team tracer, so I will trace out the pattern pieces on this. However, some people will actually cut the pattern pieces out. However, with team cut it does make it a lot more difficult if you need to resize the pattern. So for instance, if obviously you drop a couple of dress sizes or you go up a couple of dress sizes, it will make it a lot more difficult for you to reuse that pattern. So yeah, team trace here. Yeah, let's get one of the first sheet laid out and then we can start tracing. So for tracing out my sewing patterns I always use some Swedish tissue paper. It's quite nice, it's fused together so it's quite difficult to rip, and you can also sew with it if you wanted to, but yeah, I always use this. I find it's the nicest thing to use. So the other thing that I do when I'm cutting out patterns is I use these very large and quite heavy washers just to keep the paper in place, and then also when I'm cutting out my fabric I also use these again. So now I've cut that out, I'm going to write on here what size it is and what piece it is as well. Right, so I've cut out most of the pattern pieces. I've left these top bits because I wanted to just explain to you how I'm going to grade it. So if you can hear the rattling in the background, that is Cole. She's currently not helping me, but she's watching and learning, but she's got a rattle in her hand as well. I've left the top section because that's where I need to grade from a size 16 to a size 20. I'll try and explain it as best as I can how we're doing it. The light's a bit funny in here today because the sun is out, which is lovely, but it kind of interferes with the lighting on the camera, but never mind. So this is the bust front. So yeah, let's get this traced out. So this is where the sleeve is here. So I'm going to trace out a size 16 here, right down to sort of the waist area, and then I need to trace out the 20, and then we're going to sort of marry them up so they kind of work together. Okay, so for the bust dart, I am going to be using the size 16 as the bust dart. I have altered the dart slightly so it sits with the size 16. This bit here is going to be quite easy here, so I'm just going to sort of grade that in blend that into, so this is a size 16 line and this is a size 20 line. So I'm just going to grade that in slightly. I've got my French curve here. So that bit's nice and easy. This bit is a little bit more complicated, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of grade it into the size 16 arm. So I'll just do a straight line because these lines here are quite straight as it is. So we'll just use the straighter end of the French curve to blend those in. Now I'm just going to note on here, bust size 16, waist size 20. Now I just need to draw my grain line in. So your grain line is the, I'm trying to think how to explain this. Okay, so future Amelia here, because I didn't explain this grain line thing very well. So the grain line is basically how the fabrics weave. So generally it is, you've got your straight grain, which is the grain up and down, which runs along with the selvage edge, which is the finished edge of the fabric. And then you've got your cross grain, which is the one that goes from selvage edge to selvage edge. When you're cutting out your fabric, you need to follow the grain line. Otherwise, if you don't, then you will end up with twisted garments, like the ones that you buy from Primark that have been cut completely on the wonk, and then after the first wash, they're all twisted up and yeah, just looking a mess. There are exceptions to the rule, so you can cut stuff on the bias, which is the 45-degree angle across the fabric from edge to edge, and that gives you a bias cut. That will change the behaviour of the fabric as well. So there you go, a brief explanation of how your grain line works. Okay, so again, I'm just going to trace out 20 along here and then 16 at the top here. I'm going to use the 16 back dart and then yeah, we'll just blend it in, but I'm going to match it up with the front piece as well, just to make sure it all ties in well. So I've traced out my pattern. I am going to do a wearable toile, as I discussed earlier, and I'm going to use this fabric here, which is like a cotton type lawn. I actually got it really cheap off there's actually a couple of fabric stores in Milton Keynes city centre on the outdoor market, and I got it off one of those, and yeah, I think it was like £4 or £5 a metre. So yeah, it's actually really lovely fabric. I've had quite a few nice bits of fabric off that store, so yeah, definitely recommend it. We're going to get this cut out, get it sewn up, and then test fit it, see what adjustments we need to make, and then we can make it in the more expensive fabric. So I've got my cutting mats laid out on the floor. With most pattern instructions, they do give you a layout of how to cut the fabric. I don't always necessarily follow that. I try and be quite as economical as possible. Quite often not this isn't that economical, but obviously they're trying to show you a way that's gonna work for most. I think I mentioned earlier on about marking out your grain line on your pattern pieces. I've marked out the grain line here. So the grain line is where it needs to, the arrow basically needs to follow the line at the edge of the fabric, which is the selvage edge here. So I'm going to get this pattern piece lined up and get this cut out. When I cut out my pattern pieces, I always generally use a rotary cutter, and then also I use the weights to weight the pattern pieces down. Some people prefer to use pins and scissors, but I find the rotary cutter is far more quicker and just generally a lot easier. So let's get this bit cut out first. For me to get the most out of the fabric I've got, I'm not folding it exactly in half, I'm just folding out the width of the pattern piece that I need, and then I'll cut it out from there. But because I'm folding it like this, I am making sure that I'm measuring from the selvage edge to the folded edge to make sure that I am following that grain line. So I've now overlooked locked all the pieces that I wanted to overlock the edge on. So where I have overlocked is on the edges where there might be adjustments needed. So that'd be like down the side seams, along the waistline. I have also done my darts as well. So the skirt has a frill around here. So in the instructions, the next step is going to be for me to hem the frill before I'm going to attach it. So I will do that. If you're anything like me, I always used to hate doing a very fine hem. So there is a technique that you can do. So I'm just going to set my stitch to the longest stitch possible, and then I'm going to base along the raw edge, just a couple of mil from the edge, and then I'll show you the next step. So I've just done a long straight stitch along there, and what we're going to do is I'm going to iron it up. So we've created a fold on where the seam is, so I'm just going to iron that, and then we'll do the next thing. I've ironed it along where the stitch is. So now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a stitch along here, okay, and then I'm going to go and iron it again on that seam like I just did. We just folded that over again, and then this is where I'm going to go in with a final stitch. And there you have it, a nice narrow hem. So now that I've done the hem, it's now time for me to get this gathered up. So with gathering, we do two sort of loose stitches along here, and then we pull it, and then that's how we get the gathers. So I'm just doing the frill for the back of the skirt, and then we can start sewing the bodice together, I think. So yeah, let's get this done. I've finished the toile, so I'll just pop that on for you and just talk through what adjustments I've made. I'll talk through what adjustments I've made for the final dress. There wasn't a huge amount, it fitted pretty well, so and there's still a few finishing off bits, so let me pop it on and then you can have a look. Okay, so there's a few finishing off bits to do, so I've put a pin in here because I need to attach a bit of ribbon or something to tie in inside here, and then I just need to finish off around the arm. So I have done the sleeveless version for the toile. When I make it in the final dress, then I'm going to put the sleeves on. But yeah, it fits really well because I graded from, I think it was 20 to 22 at the hips, where I had graded it, which I always do. I over-emphasised the curve, so I had to take it in slightly down here so it sat right, rather than sort of going like this, which looked a bit silly. And then the other thing that I did, because I'm quite tall, I have let out the waistband, which just gives me that extra bit of length for the waist, because otherwise I think it would have ended up sitting up here slightly, which for me is a little bit too high. So yeah, it fits really well, very pleased with it, and I think I might be wearing this for my daughter's second birthday party. It was really good to do a toile because I now know there's some bits I need to be a little bit more wary when I'm making it. So when I was sewing the hem on, I kept getting it caught under the machine, so it was kind of doubling back on itself because the curve on here is quite significant. So I just know that obviously when I come to do the final dress that I need to be aware of that. Because I made a toile, hopefully it will make the process quicker, and I need to get it done today because the wedding is tomorrow. I'll just zoom out a little bit so you can actually see the whole dress. So excuse the white trainer socks, but yeah, really pleased with that. Nice length. I think it's kind of a dress that you can sort of dress down, so I could wear it with heels, but also look good with a pair of like white trainers as well, or flat sandals. But yeah, really pleased with it. I've started cutting out the final dress. which I did last time, but I've still got a few more bits that I need to cut out, and then we can start getting that sewn together. As I say, I need to get it done today, otherwise I'm not going to have a dress for tomorrow. So yeah, let's crack on and get it made. So I finally got all the fabric cut out. I'm just going to go around and like basically prep it. So I'm going to overlock any edges that need to be overlocked. I'm going to base stitch. I didn't do that on the toile. The fabric that I used for the toile was quite a stable fabric, whereas this is a viscose, which is quite unstable. So with stay stitching, it basically is a stitch that just stops the pieces from disforming. I've just got to be very careful that I don't over handle this fabric. That's the other thing that I need to do, is cut out the interfacing as well, so I better do that first before we do anything else. Okay, so I've prepped everything. Now I'm going to go on the sewing machine and get those bits sewn. So when I'm doing the darts, I iron it first obviously, and then I actually draw on with a pen. So I use the friction pens, I think they're called. See if I can find one. These pens, I'll link them down below, but they're really good because they come off with an iron. Okay, so I've overlocked, put darts in and put the pockets in on the side on the skirt front. So I've kind of done like all the prep bit. Last little bit I've got to do is gather the gather the frill for the front, and then we can actually start getting it sewn together. We've finally got the frills on. This has taken forever just because the fabric is so delicate, but it looks fabulous. Like, yeah, it's got such a lovely drape to it and stuff. The next bit is for me to get the bodice attached to the skirt, and then we can, well, we'll start getting it together. Okay, so I had to stop for a little while because it was dinner time and I need to get the kids to bed. However, it is now 8:20 in the evening and I need to get this dress finished today. Yeah, I don't want to be finished this stuff tomorrow. So, and I wanted to have a bath tonight, but I don't think that's going to happen either. So, nothing like lastminute.com, is there? The next bit that I wanted to do was sew the bodice onto the skirt. So let's do that. You know what, whilst I'm doing this, I think I might start watching a series, and I think I'm going to watch Baby Reindeer, I think it's called, on Netflix. Let me know if you've watched it. Have you watched it? What are your thoughts? Is it any good? Let's give it a try. So it's now the morning of the wedding, and yeah, I haven't finished it. I just need to, basically, I've only got the sleeves to do, and I think hopefully they're quite straightforward, or hopefully they will be straightforward. So yeah, let's get this done. I'm going to give myself an hour, I think. Hopefully, because course it should only take an hour. The rest of the dress is finished. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I need to do on the dress. So yeah, let's get this done. We've finished it. Okay, it's like 10:10. I need to be ready for 11:30. So yeah, let's get a wiggle on. Future Amelia again, because I didn't really get any good footage of the dress from when I wore it at the wedding. So I'm just going to pop it on so you can actually see. I will pop in a photo or two that we did get, but I feel like it just doesn't do the justice. So let's let me go and get the dress on, and then you can see what it's looking like. Before I show you the actual finished dress, I just want to ask, is this the sort of content you like? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, I'll show you the dress. So yeah, this is the finished garment. It's also got pockets. Who doesn't love a pocket? I wore it with these heels, which were M&S Fine last summer. Very pleased with it. Whoosh. Definitely think I'll be making some more of these, I think. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one, and let me know in those comments what are your thoughts on these sort of videos.